Okay, right, we're looking at C2d, and this one really is looking at cars and the materials they're made from, and also the fact that they need to be recycled. Now, in the last topic we looked at rust and we looked at what caused it, and if you remember we were looking at iron, and you needed to have oxygen and water in order to make hydrated iron 2 oxide. Now the reason we're mentioning that this time is because iron is part of the steel that is used to make cars. Some cars now though are made from aluminium, and that's because it's less dense than steel, so it does make it a much lighter car, and then that makes it better in terms of fuel economy. Also, aluminium does not rust or corrode like steel does, and years ago all cars used to be having had steel panels, but this did cause a big problem with corrosion, and like we said, because they've got the iron in the steel and that can corrode. These days though we are trying to find ways to save money. And we need to be able to recycle as much of a car as possible. When it comes to exam questions, you are probably going to be asked to describe either the properties that the steel and aluminium have in common, and the differences that make them usable for cars. So if you see that aluminium is good because it doesn't corrode, less dense than iron, making it lighter like we said, malleable, which means it can be sort of bent into shape, and another thing is it conducts electricity. If we're looking at steel, it can rust, and this is because of the oxidation. Okay. Another thing you could well be asked is you could be asked to look at the materials that make a car, and a car has over 10,000 different parts. The different parts are made from different materials depending on the job that they are needed for. For example, steel may be used for the actual car body itself. Aluminium may be used for the engine block, copper for the electrical wiring, as we discussed earlier. This is a good electrical conductor. Glass for the windows, and plastic for the bumpers and dashboard. Fibres are used for the carpet and seat fabric. Car manufacturers are increasingly looking at alternative materials for their car parts, and this may be to reduce costs. But fuel consumption is becoming a big thing, especially with how expensive petrol's becoming. This also helps to extend the life of the car, or to make recycling easier when the car is no longer fit for the road. If some people are taking their cars to scrap yards, for instance, some companies will actually charge them because they have to follow strict guidelines on actually getting rid of things like the car battery, things like that. The other thing to consider when we're looking at recycling cars is that we're doing it because we are running out of resources on Earth. Recycling saves natural resources. It reduces the problem of how to dispose of parts and materials at the end of their useful lives. A European Union directive requires car makers to improve their designs to make cars easier to recycle. They must also avoid certain toxic materials and increase the percentage of a car that can be recycled. The target is a minimum of 95% of a car's weight by 2015, and this also allows owners to have their cars scrapped at no cost to them. Okay, so just to reiterate, you are more than likely going to be asked to compare aluminium with iron, and as I said, aluminium doesn't corrode, whereas iron can rust. Aluminium is less dense than iron, so it makes it lighter. Aluminium is malleable, but so is iron. Aluminium conducts electricity, but so does iron as well.